Hello and welcome to the Mesa Mayoral Debate. Starting on Wednesday, October 9th, voters in Mesa will have a choice to determine who will be the city's next mayor. The two choices include term-limited council member Mark Freeman, who represents the north-central parts of the city, and former Mesa mayor and Valley Metro CEO Scott Smith. This debate is hosted by the Arizona Republic in partnership with the city of Mesa. I'm Rafael Carranza, a reporter with the Arizona Republic, and I'll be moderating the debate tonight. This is a nonpartisan debate, and the goal of tonight's event is to provide with voters in Mesa with all the information that they need to make an informed choice. I'll quickly review the format of the debate before we begin. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make an opening statement and 1 minute for closing statements. A coin toss prior to the start of this broadcast determined the order for that. The questions came from the Republic as well as from members of the public. They have not been shared with either candidate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a response as well as 1 minute for a rebuttal from the opposing candidate. We have a lot of questions to get through, so I asked the candidates to be respectful of the allotted time so that voters in Mesa can learn about your vision for the city, where you stand in various policies, and why you think you should be the next mayor. With that, let's go ahead and get started with opening statements. We will begin with Scott Smith. You have 2 minutes for your first statement.
Thank you, Rafael, and thank you to the Arizona Republic and Mesa Channel 11 for sponsoring this debate. I'm running for mayor of Mesa for a very simple reason. I love this city and what it's done for me and my family over the years. But there's also something else. I believe that our city is at an inflection point. You might say a crossroads. We've had a lot of success, a lot of growth, but the question is where will we go? Where will we go in the next decade, in the next half decade, for the next generation? And I think that the most pressing issue, the most critical issue for our city at this time is leadership, visionary leadership. Leadership that can take this city to the next level, continue the upward momentum that it's had. We can either choose to move them forward and to bring great things, or the status quo. And if we do that, then we'll fall behind. We will not reach our full potential. I believe in my experience, background, and proven track record of doing things when I was mayor before and as a CEO in Valley Metro shows that I can deliver. It also is a good indicator as to the leadership that I can provide and the trust as to why organizations such as the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, the realtors, the home builders, and as the only mayor who's received the endorsement of both the Firefighters Association and the Police Association, shows that others believe in me also. We can make a difference. We can make a change, but only if we have the kind of visionary leadership that will take us to the next level. Mike Tyson once said, the famous boxer once said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the nose. I don't know what the next 4 years will bring, but I do know that there will be challenges and opportunities for the 35th largest city in America, and I'm ready and willing to take on those challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Now, Mr. Freeman, you have 2 minutes as well.
Well, thank you, Rafael and the Arizona Republic and Maritza Dominguez for reaching out. You know, I consider this as a resume and an interview for mayor. And I looked at my resume as a former firefighter in the city of Mesa for over 31 years. I've also served on the Board of Adjustment as a volunteer board member for 2 years, and also served as a current city council member. So when I added it all up, I have over 40 years of experience in our city and community. I've watched our community grow and progress from a small community to a large city as we are today at about 520,000. And so I provide leadership opportunities here that I work consistently with my other council mates and my mayor to make Mesa better than it is today and moving forward. My vision in moving forward is to continue to work with public safety. I have the endorsements from our Fraternal Order of Police and our Mesa Police Association, as well as other associations supporting me for mayor because they believe in my leadership. I also sit as chairman of our Public Safety Committee, as well as the national chairman of our Public Safety Crime Prevention Committee for the National League of Cities. Those are important resumes and leadership that I'm doing today to help progress Mesa. And we're using technology and things within Mesa to help Mesa move forward. One of the things, not only public safety, but our infrastructure and the things that we provide daily into our community. One thing I want to really stress is fiscal responsibility and transparency in our community. I think that's extremely important. I've done that throughout my whole career as a council member. and also making sure our public safety is funded correctly, because that's why people come here to Mesa. And education is a key component for myself and our community, because our community was built upon education. So with that, I want you to know that I support our people. I listen to you. My door has always been open to the City of Mesa and the residents in District 1, as well as the whole city. So thank you very much, Rafael.
Thank you both. And the two of you mentioned your leadership experience. And so the first set of questions will focus on leadership. Mesa is the second city in the Metro Phoenix area, the 36th largest city in the United States. It is often seen as a regional and national leader in policy and programs. And as a result, the mayor is often asked to weigh in on major national and regional issues as well. As mayor, how would you exercise that leadership role? And what are the issues that you and the city of Mesa would prioritize? What lessons should the rest of the region learn from this city? We'll go ahead and start once again with you, Mr. Smith.
Well, thank you. Mesa not only should be seen, Mesa is seen as a national leader. I recognized this when I was fortunate to be elected by my peers as the president of the United States Conference of Mayors, the only Arizona mayor to be elected to that prestigious position. And as such, I had the opportunity to go into the White House and meet with the president and vice president, the leaders in Congress, to advocate on behalf of this city. And I can tell you that the city of Mesa and its residents, their beliefs and their positions are important. We are nationally recognized. We're also a regional leader and a state leader. As the second largest city in the Valley and then the largest city in the East Valley, what we do and the leadership that we give, the leadership our mayor gives on issues such as transportation, water, growth, crime, and other things are listened to. We're looked to for this kind of leadership. Having the experience of being the Maricopa Association of Governments chair of the Regional Council, chair of the Transportation Policy Committee, working with mayors both on the east side and the west side, I was able to advocate for the city. And that's my primary objective. When it comes to issues, I only have one standard. How does it impact Mesa and its citizens? Regardless whether it's a national issue, regardless whether it's a candidate or an issue, regardless of how I may feel, I represent you. I represent the citizens. And I will advocate on behalf of that. I did that before. I met consistently with the Obama administration, for example. They were in power, brought great things to Mesa, worked with others on both sides of the aisle to do things that benefited the citizens of Mesa and improved the quality of life. So whatever issue comes up, I look first and foremost, is the issue important to the city? What kind of leadership role can we take? And we will take that. And as mayor, I will be out front like I have in the past to advocate on behalf of the city and its citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Freeman, same question to you. How would you exercise your leadership role as mayor, and what are the issues that you and the city of Mesa would prioritize?
Well, thank you. One of the main components when you talk about leadership and national policies, you have to take and extrapolate that information and how it applies to Mesa, Arizona. And so that's where I've done for the last 7.5 years, working with the mayor and our council members, is we take that information, we see how it applies to Mesa. And one of the things that we've done is we've taken technology to the highest level that we can, using our real-time crime center and other funding mechanisms to help produce state-of-the-art on policing, with our responses on fire and life safety. And we've taken, as I sit on a national committee and provide the leadership there, we're using Mesa as a model towards how we can improve other communities and other states and communities within the United States. So Mesa is a tip of the spear, not only in fire and life safety, but our policing. And we continue to work really hard on that. And we also we're participating in national and regional water saving and conservation methods so that we can conserve water in our community. And I sit on the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association. That's a municipal board that involves 10 municipal cities. And so I know how important water is in our community. Without water, we would never grow economic development. So we continue to work really hard regionally in cooperation with our neighboring communities, Salt River Project, Central Arizona Project, and having water that's available for our community. So again, we have to take all that information, and we work with our elected officials, both federally and locally, to help get funding, to help make wise decisions and choices with our infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I'll continue with you with the next question. Can you please describe what the biggest challenge that the city of Mesa faces, and what is the most important issue that you plan to address early on in your term? If you can, please be specific.
Sure. One of the biggest issues that we have in our community is we have some budget shortfall that we're going to be dealing with over the next few years, and so we're looking out in the future about that funding mechanism because it will affect our budget and in all of our departments. And the thing, well, it's about a $30 million budget shortfall per year for the next 5 years. And with that, we have to strategically look at how we can implement our programming in our city. And also, and again, I'm going to lean on our public safety because we have to understand the importance of public safety and empowering our departments to grow and succeed. Mesa is still growing today, so we have to add police and firefighters. We're building 4 new fire stations today. We're building a combined police and fire facility out in East Mesa to help with our response times. And then we're going to ask the voters for bonding for a public safety bond as well to help support additional growth in our community. And I'm going to be focused on water as well to make sure we have an adequate water supply. We're going to be receiving some acre-feet cuts in our municipal water supply through various organizations, so we have to plan for the future for economic growth and development, which I fully support. But we're going to be well prepared, but we have to look to the future for that within the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
stop there.
Thank you for that. Mr. Smith, same question for you. You have 2 minutes. What for you is the biggest challenge that Mesa faces, and how do you plan to address that early on, if you can speak about that specifically?
Mesa's biggest challenge is being Mesa. Mesa's a wonderful place. It has a lot of success. It has a lot of potential. But it also has big city challenges. You mentioned we're 35th, 36th largest city in the country, bigger than Minneapolis, Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, Miami, Cleveland. We need to act like a big city. We need to embrace issues like the big city. When I first came in, my first time as mayor, I had no idea that after 3 weeks I would be faced with the largest financial crisis in the history of the city since the Great Depression. Yes, the Great Recession started. And at that time, we had to figure out not only how to deal with a budget shortfall and to survive the Great Recession, but how to build and to thrive during the Great Recession. I believe, and I agree with Mr. Freeman, we will have financial challenges. Mesa actually has done quite well. We did quite well during the pandemic, set records in sales tax revenue, as you all, thank you very much, stayed home and shopped from Amazon and other places as opposed to going to other communities. Got lots, literally hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government. But due to the legislature and other issues, that revenue stream is cut off. And we will once again have to deal with not only the financial challenges, but also the leadership question, which is, are we simply going to balance the budget, or are we going to build and thrive like we did before? Innovate, change the way we provide public safety. The most important thing that a city can do is keeping you safe, keeping our citizens safe. And so I think that the biggest challenge is meeting whatever challenge we have, and I've just talked about finance, but doing it in a way that's sort of counterintuitive, in the sense that we're not here just to meet the challenge, we're here to tackle and to go beyond the challenge like we did during the Great Recession. Set ourselves up for the greatest economic growth, job growth in the history of this city after going through the most significant financial crisis in the city. That's leadership, and that's what I think is our greatest challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll continue with you the next question. And so because there are some things that you will agree on, I'm hoping that you can talk about what uniquely sets you apart from your opponent, and why should Mesa voters choose you as their next mayor?
Thank you. That's a great question. You know, there's a lot that Mark and I have in common. A lot of our outlook, we're both, even though this is nonpartisan, we are registered Republicans. We consider ourselves governing from a conservative standpoint. But there are differences. There's differences in our backgrounds. There's difference in our experience. Mark mentioned his experience, and I respect that experience. My experience is very different. I come from a professional background, a CPA and attorney by training, and that set me up very well to handle many of the multitude of issues we have. My experience as a mayor and the successes that we achieved. My experience in leading the city through its greatest challenges, and I already mentioned the U.S. Conference of Mayors and other positions that I've held, I think make me uniquely qualified to come back. We had some great successes, but I'm not living in the past. This isn't about the past, but as Mark said, this is a resume. You are looking at the two of us and deciding who you believe is better to lead the 35th largest city in America in the years to come. I think when you look at things like the Chicago Cubs not being in Florida right now, they're in Mesa. When you look at Apple investing a first $1 billion in Mesa, which has led to significant growth in the Elliott Road Tech Corridor and out there, billions and billions of additional development, all started with Apple. When you look at the transportation, the completion of the State Route 24 interchange, which provided a springboard to significant growth east and south of Gateway Airport, and doing that 8 years early and almost $100 million under budget, that has more than repaid itself. Those kind of successes are what I believe sets me apart and makes me different, uniquely qualifies me for the challenges and opportunities that this city will see in the upcoming years.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman, what sets you apart from your opponent, and why should Mesa voters choose you as their next mayor? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. One of the things that I feel is extremely important, what I've done my whole life is, in working for the city of Mesa as a firefighter, is I've been into every neighborhood in our community, in our city. I've seen people on their best and worst days, and I know how important it is that people want to be respected for what they do. And so I feel that that's why I have come through our grassroots organization in our community in which I live, and we have advocated for our quality of life, and so I respect that. I've listened to people who live in their neighborhoods all throughout Mesa, throughout my career as a fire captain and paramedic, and I take and extrapolated that information into leadership capabilities where I listen to people in my neighborhood so that I can make pragmatic decisions that quantify the life of the individuals living there. And what I work really hard is uplifting our neighborhoods. Some of our neighborhoods are underperforming, and we need to look to the future and say, how can we make our neighborhoods in Mesa stronger and better so that they're more resilient to withstand and have a better quality of life than they don't have, or they do, maybe they think they have, but we can help enhance that and make it better. And that's what Mesa needs to do. Mesa is Mesa historically. I've lived here, breathed here, and I continue to know what Mesa is like and what we need to have for its future. And I will take that information as the mayor of Mesa and build up our neighborhoods and make them stronger and more resilient today than they ever have been. Now, I know that's just words, but you can look at my track record. I've done that in my council district and making improvements in there that have changed and uplifted the quality of life of people in District 1. And I work collaterally with my fellow council members. It's just not about Mark Freeman. It's about neighborhoods and other council members and working together to get the job done.
Thank you so much. Our next few questions will focus on infrastructure and economic development. We'll begin with you, Mr. Scott. An agreement earlier this year between the cities and the legislature bars the use of the half-sales transportation tax to fund light rail and streetcar extension projects in the valley. How should the city of Mesa fund the expansion of the Tempe streetcar and fund these maintenance costs? And what is your vision for development along these planned routes and corridors?
Well, first of all, the Prop 479, there is a difference between Mr. Freeman and I, where I am a full supporter of Prop 479. I think there is nothing that has been done in this region that has created more prosperity, and especially the city of Mesa. If you look at driving on the 202, the 101, the State Route 24, all these things that have driven development. And I was disappointed when Mr. Freeman stated that he was undecided on that. I am a full-blown supporter of that. Every mayor in the city in the region has supported Prop 479, and it is essential to the future of Mesa. As it relates to light rail will not be extended in Mesa. It's not there. And yes, Prop 479 precludes the use of those sales tax funds to do anything else. I don't know if there will be an extension, what will happen with the streetcar. It is under study right now. I have questions about it. I was deeply involved as Valley Metro CEO in the Tempe streetcar, and it seems to work there. I'm not convinced and not sure that the same thing will happen in Mesa. I'm looking forward to the studies and having a vibrant discussion before we commit to anything to see if it is the right fit to extend streetcar in Mesa. I also have I have other questions to answer. But that being said, I am absolutely convinced that if we do not extend the half-cent sales tax, we will suffer. The freeways that you take for granted and I take for granted, 202 was built with the half-cent sales tax. The 101 was built. The superstition, US 60, was widened with the half-cent sales tax. It's being maintained with that because the legislature has underfunded highways. We need to make sure that we support that and that goes forward. And I think that the mayor of the city of Mesa should be at the forefront, lead, not from behind, not being undecided, but lead from the forefront to advocate for something which has made such a difference in the lives of individual citizens of Mesa.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. For you, how should the city of Mesa fund any expansion of the Tempe streetcar or any maintenance costs associated with that? And what is your vision for any planned development along any new or existing routes?
Thank you. I want to point out that I never said I was undecided, that I was neutral on this subject, because I take this very seriously because we have a fiduciary responsibility. Those sales tax dollars are collected, and then it's up to elected officials to engage those dollars appropriately within the community. And so today, the light rail, today we fund that out of our general fund. And that's a $17.5 million check that we write annually for the operation and maintenance of the light rail. And then in addition to that, we have our bus routes is about $5 million. So we spend about $21.3 million on public transportation within the community. I support that, I always have. Now comes the light rail and public transportation, there are encumbrances on that. Number one, yesterday we had a robbery affecting on the light rail over at Dobson and Main Street area where a person was very belligerent and stomping on the head of an individual in a robbery. And so the light rail has brought big time problems to the city of Mesa, and we are having to police that, and it's causing some consternation with our residents in our community. Do I support additional light rail extension to Mesa? No, not at this time. The Tempe streetcar, that's a work in progress. Right now, we're just going through the planning process and the land use components of that to decide, are we going to move forward with the streetcar from Tempe into Mesa, which I can support if it's done appropriately. So to say I'm not supporting that is incorrect, because I look at all the data and all the statistics, because right now the ridership is so low on the light rail and public transportation on our bus systems that it doesn't justify additional transportation modes in our city. However, that's not saying I won't support that. I have to look forward and get all that information, and I'll make a pragmatic decision like I've always done in my life.
Thank you so much. Yes, I was going to ask you 1 minute for rebuttal.
Yeah, Prop 479 has nothing to do with the operations of light rail. I agree, there's problems. Believe me, as somebody who ran the system for 6 years, I know there's issues with the operations. But those are completely separate because there's no funds in Prop 479 in the half-cent sales tax for operations. It's all about construction. And there are no monies in Prop 479 to construct any more rail. You can't use it. So to even be undecided about an initiative that funds freeways, that improves our streets, 2/3 of the money from the half-cent sales tax goes to fund freeways and street improvements. 1/3 goes to fund transit operations, not light rail, not any rail. Those are all by the city. So I am still a little bit miffed that you wouldn't separate those two and say, I completely support continuing the tax that has built such a great freeway system. We'll continue to build good roads and good streets, and we'll improve those and deal with the operational amount, which has nothing to do with 479 completely separately.
Thank you. You have 1 minute for a response as well.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you get miffed over things because, you know, I take it seriously as well, Scott, because this is not a problem. This is 100% accurate that I will support our infrastructure and streets and improvements in our community with the 479. I look at the overall arching thing of it and how it impacts our neighborhoods in our city, and I'm okay with it. And I'll tell you that right now. For right now, I am going to support 479. And so I want you to check that off your box there.
I'm glad to hear that.
So
that's a change.
But it's not a change. I've told you that I'm pragmatic and I listen to all the information in our neighborhoods to make an informed decision. That's how I've always operated. As a command officer in the fire service, we get all this information in and we make good decisions on that. And that's what I strive to do every time. So with that said, I continue to support 479. I want everybody out there to know that it's imperative. We're doing a $160 billion improvement just in one intersection in Mesa. And part of those fundings is going to come through this 479.
Thank you. And so moving on to the next question, the NHL's Arizona Coyotes left town. MLB's Arizona Diamondbacks are making noises about the future of Chase Field and whether they're going to stay in downtown Phoenix. Should Mesa try to attract a professional sports franchise? What is your philosophy about when that makes sense, about taxpayer support, and what would be the criteria that you would use on whether to determine whether you support a franchise in Mesa, Mr. Smith?
I love the Diamondbacks being in downtown Phoenix. I think it's wonderful. I hope they stay there. And I wouldn't entertain anything to be any different. As far as an NHL, right now, the NHL has no desire to come here unless there is something. I don't think the city of Mesa should be a leader in that, simply because there are other options that are more important things we do. We built the Cubs Stadium. We did it without using tax monies. Spring training is different than another type of thing. It brings in millions and millions of dollars of revenue. And I not only supported that, I led that effort to keep the Cubs in Mesa. I just don't have any interest right now in entertaining any type of local sports thing, because I think there are other places they can be. I'm sorry that the Coyotes left, but they had many chances with other cities to find a home, and they didn't. I hope that the D-backs and Maricopa County and the city of Phoenix, if they get involved, and I think they will get involved, can work something out to keep the D-backs in downtown Phoenix, because I think that's where they belong. And I don't see the Cardinals leaving State Farm Stadium anytime soon. So I don't think Mesa will be a player in any of those.
Thank you so much for you, Mr. Freeman, as well. Where do you stand when it comes to the city of Mesa's pursuing a franchise?
I let things just play out. You know, for example, when we talk about the Cubs and the Hohokam Stadium, you know, there were dollars used, there were bond dollars being used for that. And just recently, in the past 3.5 years, we paid off $55 million worth of bonds to the stadium. So we own all our stadiums free and clear. For those that are listening, so the Cubs Stadium and the Hohokam Stadium is free and clear, other than the operation and maintenance that we do all the time. I think, you know, professional sports teams, they have to understand and look at, you know, it comes down to land use, location, population, and they put all those together, and they can decide what they want to do. And I'm sure the city will have some impact in that. And there might be something in the future coming that we don't know about. I'll end there.
Thank you so much. The next question is about the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. As both of you know, it's become a big hub of aerospace technology and manufacturing, and it is one of the city's key jobs industries. How will you work with the city manager and the economic development director to continue development along this corridor and bring even more high-paying jobs to the airport area and the East Mesa corridor that has been tapped for this type of growth? I'll start with you, Mr. Freeman.
Well, that's a great question, because Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport is a big economic engine. In fact, one of the first things that was implemented is called Skybridge. Are you familiar with Skybridge?
If you can explain it.
Okay, so I'll explain it. So basically, when people in Latin America, Mexico and Latin America would order things from Amazon or other suppliers, it would take a long time for customs to clear to go down to their country of origin. So now we have U.S. and Mexican customs officials. The goods come into there, they get cleared within hours and shipped out to the country of origin. So that's a big thing for the Latin American and Mexico countries to receive their goods that they order from American companies. The other thing is we just recently broke ground on Zenergy. Zenergy is a 1 million square foot on the east side of Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. They'll provide air conditioning units for data centers globally. And so they will be building their facility. We have ASU Poly there. ASU Poly is one of the global leaders in innovation and technology. They're building a brand new campus there. We embrace that. Mesa is one of the owners in the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, along with other communities in the local area. And so we all share a vision on making that bigger and better. And we have other aviation companies that have come in and set up, and flight schools and everything. And you've got to remember, Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, the airport itself is one of the largest airports that can handle one of the largest pieces of aircraft in the world. In fact, one time I was out there, I saw the largest Russian aircraft loading Apache helicopters on there with Israeli markings on the Apache helicopters flying to Israel, putting 6 helicopters in the aircraft. Phenomenal. So Mesa, Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport is a great asset in the community, and we're going to utilize every part of it.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, for you, how would you pursue further development and bring even more high-paid jobs to this corridor?
Well, the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport story is one that I'm especially proud of. Allegiant landed in Mesa literally right before I took office, and I'm very appreciative to my predecessors, especially Mayor Keno Hawker and Wayne Brown and Willie Wong, who had the vision to see Gateway growing to where it is. We grabbed that and we created the Gateway Area Plan. We also planned infrastructure, such as the Ray Road. If you've gone down Ray Road now, that did not go through. It stopped at Sossaman and did not go to Ellsworth. We put Ray Road through, and the growth and the investment along that Ray Road corridor in the Gateway area has been phenomenal, literally tens of millions of dollars in business activity. I mentioned the State Route 24 interchange. We accelerated that by 8 years because we wanted to get not only to Eastmark and that development there, but basically to get to the east side of the airport. Getting to the east side of the airport made possible all of the kinds of developments we're talking about, including Skybridge, including Gulfstream and those others that are going on that side of the airport. It opened it up. We widened Ellsworth Road. All those were done in anticipation of the growth that people said would never happen in that area. And then most of all, we took the dirty work. Infrastructure isn't always about sexy projects. Sometimes it's about fixing an airport that was a military air base and therefore was not set up for the kind of economic and commercial activity we have now. We put in drainage. I worked carefully, flew back to Washington many times to negotiate with the Federal Federal Aviation Administration to build taxiways, to build drainage, to do things that allowed the airport to grow to the place that it has now. So I would say continue on, continue doing the things in. We grew the terminals, built the first expansion of terminals, and was very happy to be involved in that and set the stage for what I think has been phenomenal growth. 2 million passengers a year, 45 cities served. I think Gateway in the entire area has nowhere to go but up. I was proud to be part of building that foundation. I'm happy with what's been done with Mr. Freeman and the council and the mayor, and look forward to pushing it even to higher levels of success in the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scott. Residents in Southeast Mesa.
Can I add something?
Sure, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
1 minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a rebuttal, but I just want you to know I'm really thankful for our elected federal officials. We've got a brand new tower, FAA tower there, and that was essential for future growth of Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. Let me give you one example. There's all the chip manufacturers here in the valley and make chips, but they need supplies from Taiwan and other. They can now fly aircraft from Taiwan into Mesa, Arizona in a matter of hours, whatever the flight time is. Before, they'd have to go to LA, then go in a warehouse, get cleared, get trucked to Mesa, Arizona to Intel and other chip manufacturers. We have streamlined the process so well that it's going to make an economic viable engine at Phoenix Mesa Gateway for jobs, for education, and other components. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll give you 1 minute to respond as well.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I failed to mention that we have to fix, that we have a little bit out of order. And that is that there are issues with that area, especially with attracting high-level entertainment and other economic restaurants and other things. And frankly, the residents in that area are very dissatisfied. They felt like they've been let down. A large reason for that is the failure of the bureaucracy. The city of Mesa commissioned a study to figure out why there was problems in attracting these, and the study itself said that developers were reluctant to come to Mesa because of problems with planning and zoning, long delays in approvals, and other things from city stakeholders that caused them to not want to invest in Mesa. The best way to make Mesa grow is to make Mesa easier to do business, regardless of the size of your business. Small business, medium, and of course big businesses. That's going to be especially important in Eastmark. And the city itself, from its study, says we have a problem. One of the first things I will do is sit down and work on facilitating, not regulating, making businesses and investments successful.
Thank you. And so that goes to the heart of the next question about retail, because we have heard from residents in Southeast Mesa who say that they need a more focused strategy to attend some of this high-end dining, retail, and entertainment options in the city. They point out that the city is losing out to money from neighboring cities who do have these types of amenities. Mesa ranks near the bottom when it comes to sales tax revenue per capita compared to other cities in the valley. And so hoping that you can address what specifically does the city need to do moving forward to begin building and attracting the type of retail that these residents have expressed that they want?
You know, one of the saddest things that I have heard, and I've been in many meetings out, especially in the Southeast Valley, is when residents say, I moved into my house, my neighborhood. I want to shop here. I want to entertain, to dine here. I have to go to Queen Creek. I have to go to Gilbert because nothing's been built out here. I know that when we approved the Eastmark Master Plan, there was a grand vision. And I will say that as excited as I am for the house, the growth, the investment in commercial and industrial, it's a mystery as to why there has not been a corresponding investment in the type of retail that that area deserves. Well, I go back to that same report that the city had. The city admitted that they had not focused on that. They were distracted. They were focused in other areas, and they did not even try to recruit or to build or to work with the master developers and others to ensure that the quality of life issues, and there's no doubt that having neighborhood restaurants and everything so you don't have to drive clear to Queen Creek, it's a quality of life issue. And I was very disappointed to hear the city staff admit that they had failed to take that into consideration. They were focusing on other things. Well, they were very successful in the other areas, but a community is a compilation, many things coming together. It doesn't help you if you move into a nice house and you have to drive 10 miles for groceries or 10 miles on a Friday night. There's two things. First of all, your quality of life goes down. The second thing is all that sales tax revenue goes outside the city limits. To me, that's a great disservice to both the city, our taxpayers, and the residents. What we will look at is we'll look at where are we going. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time with an economic development staff that I believe is wonderful. It's amazing to me that there was not a focus on making sure that those communities grew in a balanced manner, but added a lot of data centers, a lot of warehouses, which love investment, but ignored the needs of the citizens. This is all about you and about your quality of life, and we're going to work on that to streamline, to get back to facilitating, not regulating, and to attract those kind of businesses that you deserve.
Thank you. Same question for you, Mr. Freeman. What specifically does the city and you as mayor need to do moving forward to begin building and attracting these types of retails that residents express that they want?
Good question. I think things have grown organically in the area to where neighboring communities that border Mesa have grown and progressed faster than we have. And some of that growth is facilitated by infrastructure and roads. And now with State 24 going through there, that's facilitated a lot of growth. We do have growth. There's some things coming on Power Road that will facilitate some more sit-down restaurants and things. And it's still a little further away to the west of Eastmark, but using Eastmark's example, I've been through that community quite a bit here in the last 3 months and talked to a lot of neighborhoods, and they feel they have their neighborhood shopping centers, so they have their groceries, they have their fuel consumption, their fuel stations, they have some of the things, dentistry and other medical things that they need. But when we talk about more sit down and other things, I think some of those will grow. And I'll use the word organically because a friend of mine owns a restaurant on Cadence Parkway, and he said, you know, I'm constrained with the footprint that I have. I would be able to have twice the size of restaurant that I have today, but I don't have any space. So how do we create more space? How do we make more commercial and retail space? Well, we need to work with the developers for that. We've worked really well in the city of Mesa with our planning development community and our planning development department in having 2 planning and zoning meetings per month. So the P&Z volunteers on there, they're working twice a month to get things processed in our development community so things are growing faster. And plus, we take the time to listen to our developers and our zoning attorneys. We have had luncheons with them. We listen to the development community and how we can tune up and make better. But there are ways that we can, there's a couple of tweaks we can do, and we're working on them today to facilitate faster growth because I believe time is money.
Thank you. And so I wanted to stay with retail, and I'll give you a chance to elaborate a little more on that because, you know, when it comes to development, I think one of the biggest tools is to provide the developers with tax breaks or incentives to attract this development. So I'm curious if you can also, in your response, talk about what standards of metrics you would need to prove to support, you know, these types of requests and provide these developers with tax breaks or incentives.
Well, I'm generally not in favor of using tax breaks because I think they're misused all too often. I believe there are incentives we can give. We've given incentives, but never I've never cut a check to somebody just to do something. There's always been an incentive, and especially with retail. Mark is right. Things should grow organically, and usually commercial and retail follows rooftops. That's the old adage. The problem is that it has not followed the rooftops in the East Mark in that area, like it has in other areas. Part of the reason is because we have not held the developer, the master developer, feet to the fire as it relates to the original master vision and master plan of East Mark. There's been deviations. There's been a lack of concern about developing the type of areas that would improve the quality of life and improve our sales tax. Now, I will give Queen Creek credit. They, as a community, decided that the Queen Creek Marketplace would be the center, their new downtown. And they aggressively went out as an economic development, you may agree or disagree, to attract the kind of restaurants and entertainment and other things, which Queen Creek did not have. They did not have that. But they've created an energy and an excitement in that area that draws people there. We have not done that with the city of Mesa. We did a great job in bringing in warehouse and data center investments, which are good for us. They provide good jobs, not as good as we'd like sometimes, but they have. But we have not encouraged the developer and said, listen, we want you and we will help you to go after and attract. We don't have to give incentives. The incentive is you're building in a community that has some of the highest per capita income in the entire valley. Out there around the Gateway area, we've attracted very much an above average per capita. That should in and of itself provide the organic growth, but it hasn't. Sometimes you need the city to really attract and to actively said, we want this business, and here's what we will do. We can make it easier for you by making the permitting easier, by making the zoning easier, the things that this very study said is not happening. You're not going to get the development if you don't make it that easy. That's got to be fixed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mark Freeman, if you can please respond as well. Where do you stand on incentives, and what are the metrics that you would need to see to support them?
Yeah, I don't believe in incentives. What I believe is in performance. So these developers have to perform. When we go out, and we've done this just recently for some of the automall dealerships that are going to be in the southeast part of Mesa that are forthcoming, that they said, well, we need to build so much faster, and we need this infrastructure, we need these roadways put in. And so what we say is, well, we will support you on that, but that's not an incentive, and you have a performance metric to provide during this performance time, then we will reimburse you for the infrastructure that we would have put in already as a city. So as a city, we would have put it in, but it's growing so fast, we can't get enough construction out there to do it for them. So we allow them to do it. We enter into an intergovernment agreement with them, IGA, and everything is written out and spelled out, and the metrics and performance is there, and it's not an incentive, it's to allow them to succeed, get their businesses up and running, because then we have sales tax revenue from our car dealerships, which is huge, and we don't have a lot of car dealerships here in Mesa anymore, so now this auto mall area will provide a footprint for the very southeast part of the area, you know, for Florence, for Queen Creek, for Mesa, Apache Junction, and Gilbert, all be collectively in that area. So I believe that as we continue to work with development community, we have streamlined the process. We have 2 planning and zoning meetings a month. We have pre-submittal process. We have processes where, excuse me, if you're a developer and you want to expedite the process, you pay a little bit more, and you can get your process expedited, your development, and then we move forward. And yes, it may cost a little bit more, but time is money. Development and financial costs, the pressures out there on the market is extremely high, and we have to be cognizant of that we continue to listen to the developers and make pragmatic decisions to make them successful.
Thank you.
Yet,
1 minute for a response.
Here's what's happened. The developers themselves have said, we feel like the system is, if not broken, is not functioning. And if you give a developer a choice between going through a painful process with the city of Mesa, through planning and zoning, through application, or you're saying, hey, listen, go to Queen Creek. It's basically the same demographic. They look and see and they say, you know, someone from East Mark will more than willing to drive to Queen Creek. And Queen Creek says, open arms, come here. We will not only facilitate it, we'll make it as easy as possible. We will not only streamline, we will hold your hand and we will make this work. What are you going to do as a developer? Well, we can see what they'll do because they organically went to Queen Creek and they did not go to East Mark like they should have. That, I believe, is a failure for the city, not one that can't be overcome. I believe it will be overcome. But we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, as many things we're doing right, we need to get better in this. And we need to recognize that there have been some mistakes made that we need to correct. And that's one area that I think we need to work on.
Thank you. You have 1 minute as well if you'd like to respond, Mr. Freeman.
So thinking about what's been said, I just want the development community to know that Mesa has streamlined the process. We listen to you. We've had roundtables. We've currently just had a roundtable 2 weeks ago listening to developers, zoning attorneys, and how we can improve the process. In fact, our development services director went to the Arizona League of Cities and sat down with them, and they found out that Mesa is leading the way in the development community despite the survey. So we've made improvements to that, and we continue to be progressive in how we can facilitate and get the development community going in their respective projects. It's a work in progress. And so I continue to champion that and support our development community as well as our department. We have great staff members working hard every day throughout the whole city. Thank you.
Thank you. The next few questions will focus on community issues, and we'll start with public safety. Of course, as many viewers will know, over the past year, the East Valley has received local, regional, and national attention for teen violence with the Gilbert Goons who engaged in a series of random assaults, including at least one beating that happened at a Mesa park. And so the question is, what should Mesa do to reduce such violence? And how would you rate the cooperation with the neighboring cities to tackle this issue? Mr. Smith, we'll begin with you, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. If you notice, they're called the Gilbert Goons. And I think that that's, first of all, that's where they were, but you talk about the one incident in Mesa. Although I don't know the details, I was watching from afar. I'm proud of our Mesa Police Department and how they handled that situation. I believe Mesa, although it was only a singular event, was the first one that actually wrapped up an investigation and brought charges. I think we have a stellar police department, a stellar fire department. Our public safety is not only regionally but nationally located for its excellence. We have incredible men and women. We're not perfect. There's always areas that we can improve. I believe that Chief Cost and his staff have done a good job in addressing the issue and being on the upfront. I think this is one of the benefits of being an older city. Mesa has lived through generations. We're nearly 150 years old. We've seen it all. We're also a big city. This is, once again, the benefits of being a big city. There's virtually nothing that a big city experiences that we have not experienced it. We've gained this experience. And to our neighbors who are much younger than we are and have grown much more recently, many of these things they're experiencing now. So I have complete confidence in our public safety to handle the issues that are put before them. The big challenge is with the financial situation coming up, we need to make sure that our public safety at all levels, over 3/4 of our budget is spent on police, fire, courts. That's how important public safety is to the citizens of Mesa and to the city of Mesa. We need to make sure that our police department, fire department are adequately funded so we can attract the highest quality men and women, train them to be the highest quality professionals, and give them the equipment that they need so that these issues such as youth violence, we can nip it in the bud. I think so far, and I'm going to knock on wood because something big could happen tomorrow, but I think so far they've got a handle on that. They're ahead of the game. We need to make sure that we give them the resources, and I will ensure that that happens as mayor. We will not underfund or under-resource our public safety departments.
Mr. Freeman, what should the city of Mesa do to reduce teen violence, and how would you rate the cooperation with the neighboring cities? You have 2 minutes as well.
Thank you. Well, teen violence, first of all, is unacceptable, regardless of where it's at, whether it's in our parks, whether it's in the school system. The incident that you're referring to came about through a media interview. So the media was interviewing the family about a potential teen violence issue that happened in Mesa Public Schools. And after the interview, the interviewers asked if they could contact the Mesa Police Department because Mesa Police Department knew nothing about this. So what they did is they contacted the media team, contacted Mesa Police, who then contacted the family in question, interviewed the family member, turned around and did the investigation, and within 2 weeks that person was arrested because of teen violence. And so we stand state of the art, and that's why I show the credibility. Let me just finish with that. Credibility to our police department was outstanding because that was one incident, and we stand cooperatively with our Mesa Public Schools and our charter schools and EVET and MCC to reduce any type of violence with any of our school systems. That's why we've taken the time to have cooperative agreements with Mesa Public Schools for a real-time crime center. Their cameras are integrated into our real-time crime center in the city of Mesa, so if they have an incident happen in our Mesa Public Schools, the Mesa Public Schools says, would you please access the cameras and allow and help us provide safety for not only the teachers, the students, but the officers that may be responding, the school resource officer that might be on site. Teen violence, we are cooperating with other neighboring communities, offer our resources to help them to solve any of their problems that they might have. And we're doing phenomenal. And we continue to be tip of the spear on that. And that's one of the things I appreciate about our police department. They are spot on what they do.
And I'll do 1 minute responses for this next question. There's a reader question who expressed concern from parents and teachers about school safety. Can you please describe your plan to ensure the safety of students, staff, and teachers, and how you will accomplish that? 1 minute, please.
Well, this is where I'll agree with Mr. Freeman. I think having a partnership with the 4 school districts that operate in Mesa is essential. There are many communities where school resource officers and other engagement between the school district and the police are in many cases precluded, and that's not been the case, and I would expand on that. My vision for Mesa is that every parent should be able to send their child to school and feel that they are safe. It behooves us to use all the resources we have to partner with our Mesa, Gilbert, Higley, and Queen Creek school districts to ensure that not only we are in concert with them, we have organized and partnered with them, but we also share our resources with them, that we have police officers and other employees readily available, if not on the school site, to make sure that the safety of those students and of the teachers and all those is paramount. We need to do that, and I think with the school districts and the police, they've done a good job in preparing for that, and I would like to look at that, expand it if necessary, but I think we do a pretty good job already.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman, 1 minute as well. How would you ensure the safety of students, teachers, and staff?
Yeah, so I've been a parent sending my kids to school, and you just feel like, well, if I send my kids to school, they're going to be safe there all day. I know that they have a safe zone. Today, that might be a little different. So what we need to do and what we have been doing, I just want to reinforce that our Mesa, our real-time crime center, combined with our Mesa Police Department, we reach out and we have intergovernment agreements with Mesa Public Schools, with Queen Creek School Districts. We're going to work with the other school districts, see if they want to be a player. But I want the parents to be reassured that we have school resource officers, and that's one of the things, it's a collaboration between our Mesa Public Schools and our school systems to make sure they have their resources and we have ours to give to them. It's a matter of funding and making sure the school resource officers are on site to talk with the students, to make sure they have a rapport with them, so if they hear bad things happening, they can intercede ahead of time, because there were 12 incidents with threats at schools just recently in the last 2 weeks, and one of them was out of the country, got a school threat at Mountain View High School.
Thank you for that. Moving on to the next question, this is going to be about housing. The state continues to struggle with affordable housing crisis. Can you please talk about what specific policy you would adopt as mayor to address housing concerns in Mesa? And if you can again talk about how the use of tax credits or incentives fits into the housing equation. Mr. Freeman, we'll start with you, 2 minutes.
Okay. So we just recently did a balanced housing survey, and we're missing what's called middle housing in our community. And that means duplexes, condominiums, patio homes, smaller units to allow housing in our community. One of the things I focus as a council member is have a broad palette of housing in my district, because I had agricultural land available for sale and the landowners have sold their homes. And so I've worked with developers to have a balanced housing in District 1. And that includes townhomes, patio homes, and executive housing as well as other housing. So the conversation needs to shift to attainable housing. What's attainable for our population out there? 3 years ago, a house was $268,000. Today it's 58% higher, almost $450,000. And that's kind of the entry level of homes in our community, which is unacceptable. We need to reduce and lower that. The city plays an integral part in that in zoning and other issues, but we can't regulate what the price of the home is, because that's kind of set on financials, interest rates, and building components that goes in. And I understand that because we need to reach out in the community and make sure we have affordable housing or attainable housing in our community. And one of them is a really underserved unit is our manufactured home community. I've listened to our manufactured home community. There's communities out there, people can get a nice manufactured home, a young couple in college, and start a family or rent it out, whatever they like to do, that's affordable. And so I'm going to work hard on keeping affordability in our community, working with our development community, and working with ideas that we can for ordinances and other things like that.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Smith, same question for you. As mayor, what specific policy would you pursue to address any housing challenges in the city of Mesa? And what's your philosophy on the use of incentives or tax breaks for that purpose?
Yeah, as a home builder who built over 5,000 homes in Arizona here, and most of them entry-level and first-time move-up. This is a subject which both pains me but also excites me. It pains me that we've reached the point where we are California. I never would have imagined when I was building homes that we would say that we have the California problem, which is that our children cannot grow up in their community and have a reasonable expectation that they'll be able to stay in this community, to afford to raise a family, to buy a house and have and experience home ownership. I think there are things that the city can do, but we can't solve the larger problem because it's run by macroeconomic things that happen in Washington. But there are things we can do to make a difference. I have a plan to utilize. It does not involve paying incentives. I don't believe that you pay an incentive or a credit. There are state tax credits for affordable housing that can be used. We should maximize those. But I'd like to take one thing that we have, which is underutilized land, especially places like commercial centers that are boarded up. Maybe they're failed, but they're zoned commercial. You can't go in and build any type of housing there. I wouldn't just change that to residential, because what happens is that you change the zoning, and before you know it, you have 5 builders come in, they auction the land, and it goes up to sky-high prices, and before you know it, you can't economically build houses that our kids can afford. So I would work with the builder and say, listen, I'll give you an incentive. It's not going to be a cash incentive, but what it's going to be is that you have now land that's zoned for something that you can't use because commercial doesn't work. I will give you residential, but only if you do this. And basically it's build the type of housing. I like attainable housing that Mark talks about, the type of housing. We'll figure out the details with staff and the attorneys and everyone, but I think that we can unleash large, hundreds if not thousands of acres of underutilized land, put them on the market in a way that's meant to accomplish a community goal, which is affordable housing, and we can do that in concert with our home builders without creating the kind of feeding frenzy that drives prices up.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman, would you like to respond 1 minute and your thoughts on zoning and potential areas for development?
When we have infill development, that's what we're going to struggle with in the future. So recently I had a proposed developer come and said they wanted to put 26 homes on 2 acres. That's a little overkill. And so it was not going to be attainable. And so you have to look at the whole project in of itself. Mesa enjoys 3 things that we enjoy. One thing, quality of life. We don't have a primary property tax in Mesa. We don't pay a tax on groceries when we go to the grocery store. And we have our revenue that we get from the state, our state shared revenue. Those are our 3 funding sources. And so when you put those all together, that makes Mesa more affordable than other communities in the valley. There are other communities that have bits and pieces of that, but as Mesa has all the assets there so that people can have a great quality of life, hopefully a lower threshold, because we know the average medium income to just the affordability of some of these, like a $140,000 manufactured home, you have to earn certain percentage and able to qualify for the mortgage and payment for that unit. That's the lowest unit that we might have in Mesa. So I continue to work really hard on that. I see my time's over.
If I could say one
Thank you so
quick
much.
thing.
Absolutely 1 minute as well.
Yeah, I think that's where my experience comes in. And I've been fortunate in life to stumble into different experiences and different jobs, and one of them just happened to be in development and home building. And I learned how to work with cities, and I learned also how to be innovative. In zoning, many years ago, we wrote many of the building codes that other cities use to build entry-level housing. They didn't exist because they were so used to building ranch houses on large lots. I'm committed to working, taking this knowledge and this experience and working with the home building industry to come up with innovative approaches so we can build things that our children can afford, but that also balance and mix in with the neighborhood. You know, Mark's right. You can't do things that upset too much the balance of the neighborhood. We can get innovative. I'd love to use what I've learned through my life experience to work with others to come up with solutions that benefit your families and your children.
Thank you. This next question will be about homelessness. I'll ask if you can, please just, I'll give you 1 minute to respond. Maricopa County continues to tackle an increasing number of people experiencing chronic homelessness. The city of Mesa is in the process of renovating a hotel that it purchased last year to serve as transitional housing. What role do you feel that Mesa should play in the regional effort to provide homelessness services? Mr. Freeman, we'll begin with you. 1 minute, please.
Well, 1 minute's not enough.
We could spend the whole hour on this one.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, no, let me put this all together. Your question is correct. It needs to be a regional response, and Mesa can provide the foundational programming for it, but it takes others to participate in the programming. Right now, we are standing up a homeless shelter, but we have two of them, Mesa. We have the East Valley Men's Shelter, that's for the men only, and then we have the new one, the Grand Hotel. I don't know what its name is going to be at the end of the day, but still a shelter for veterans, women, women with children, and 24-hour sworn officer security. So we're doing everything foundationally. We have navigators out in the city working with our homeless community. I participated in the point-in-time count for the last 7 years, going out with the volunteers at 6 o'clock in the morning, counting homeless in our community, doing a survey and why they are homeless, and a lot of them need help. But what I learned over this course of time, even as a firefighter, when I responded to a homeless individual that needed medical or other type attention, I learned that it takes more than just one contact. It may take 20 to 30 contacts for that person who is service resistant. I don't want any social service, I don't want anything to help decide, hey, maybe today's the day I want to make my life better. And we have the facilities to do that. Now, we are using federal funds to stand up to purchase the hotel and make the TI improvements for it. And so we'll continue to provide the foundational things, but we need other communities, our neighbor communities. Tempe's doing their part. We can reach out to Chandler doing some, Gilbert and Queen Creek and the others. I'm not afraid to say their names because we need to work collaboratively. We just broke ground on the East Valley Men's Shelter on bridge housing. The City of Mesa just gave New Leaf $9 million for this new type of housing. We can bridge over and help people get out of the cycle of homelessness. So it's available. We stand ready to help. The city will play an integral part of that.
Thank you so much. Mr. Spith, what role do you feel the City of Mesa should play in this regional effort to provide services to people experiencing homelessness?
Yeah, homelessness is one of the vexing issues that we as a community have to deal with. And as I'm out talking to people, you know, it's one of those issues that people would rather just see it go away. It's not going away. Our brothers and sisters, there are those in need. There are those who, for whether financial, whether substance abuse, whether mental health, whatever, they require us as a community to come together. So that begs the question, well, what should the City of Mesa do to be involved? This isn't city business. Whether we like it or not, the city is involved. When there is a person walking down the street with a grocery cart and they are acting irrational, who do people call? They call the city. And our police department, police officers, our firefighters respond, and we become engaged. And we're never going to avoid that. So the question is, what happens when they respond? I would love it if we, working with other communities, working with social service agencies whose business it is to treat these people, that we work in a partnership that they can get the help that they need. Because we do have a vested interest. Not only are they our fellow human beings, but they're in our community. And we will deal with them with a city, as a city. And I would much prefer that we deal with them in a way that does not take highly trained, very expensive public safety personnel off the streets, distracted from other real needs, to deal all with this issue. So we have to have a system set up. I support the city getting involved in using the money to buy these facilities. I think that is one area that the city can do, because recent court decisions and other things that we now have to work through, the recent Boise City decision by the Supreme Court means that the city can do things. We need to hold people accountable, but we need to be able to put them in a place where they can better themselves. And the city can and will play a role with that. And I don't ever want to say solve homelessness, because what I think you're going to do is treat people and manage it and create a system, a partnership, where we can find a way to balance the needs of the people who need that and the needs of the community.
Mr. Freeman, I'll give you 1 minute to respond as well. Any additional thoughts?
There are. We've been very resilient as a city to address homelessness in our community, and I feel it's very important for human kindness, and that's what we're renowned for. But I also want to know others to know that just because a person receives a citation from our police department because of some type of ordinance violation, whether it's in the parks, on the streets, we have stood up a homeless court in our Mesa City court system to help people if they don't want to have help from our navigators. So we have our first responders is our police or fire. They come out and do initial assessment, and then we invite the navigator to come in. The navigator is that social worker that intercedes and says, okay, Mr. First Responder, police or fire, you can go away. We've got this. Unless there's a medical issue, we'll transport to the hospital. Otherwise, the navigator takes that person, wraparound services, and if they choose not to do that and they still have a citation, they would go to municipal court, and guess what? The same services are there. If they had just taken it the first time, they could have resolved their issue, and it could be a temporary issue. But anyway, we stand ready and resolved to address any homeless issue in our community, from our Mesa Public Library to our first responders to the navigators that we have hired in our city of Mesa.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
I think you can hear that Mark and I think, are on the same page on this. The city needs to step up. We cannot avoid this. We will be part of it, and we need to be a part of it for the betterment of our community. And I would say that Mark and I are in complete agreement on where the city should go forward on this.
Thank you so much. And so we're going to go to our last question here. This actually came from one of our readers, and this person wants to know if you can please describe one contribution that you have done this past year that has benefited Mesa's community. Mr. Freeman, we will begin with you. I'll repeat the question. Can you please describe one contribution that you have done this past year that has benefited the Mesa's community?
I guess I have to define what the Mesa community is, because I've always supported our Latino community for their El Grito, for Day of the Dead, our Veterans Parade. I support, being an elected official, and Mr. Smith knows this, you're invited to a lot of different things, or we can support our community. One thing I really championed was the $9 million federal monies we got to New Leaf to build this bridge housing in the community, and that will be not only for the Mesa community, but for a regional community as well. But one thing I had negotiated in the deal was that 50% or more, at least 50% of the beds at the East Valley Men's Shelter is for Mesa residents. Now, every day that could change a little bit because maybe another municipality may want to use a few more and ours are available. That's great. But at the end of the day, there's accountability. So with that, we've really worked hard on that. Building 4 fire stations in the city of Mesa. That's what we're doing today, is reducing our police and fire response in our community. We've also building new libraries out at Eastmark. We're doing that, and there's other things that we've done. So, as an elected official, you participate in a lot of different things, and what I have done as champion is working really hard in our community to make sure all groups and people feel great about Mesa and living and having a great quality of life. And that's our parks. We just opened some new parks. We put in new pickleball courts as well. So there's things that we're doing today that will engage and have a quality of life for our residents and enjoy in the future.
Thank you. Same question for you, Mr. Smith. Can you please describe at least one contribution that you have done this past year that has benefited the community in Mesa?
Well, I think the jury's still out as to whether it will benefit the community, but I hope, if nothing else, that it serves as an incentive and an example. Most of my time has been spent in the past 15 years, and I could list a litany of things that I was involved in and was able to work with others. But I think the one thing that in the past year I've done is I decided to get out of retirement and get involved. And it's something I would encourage anyone to do. Whether I win this or don't win this, it's been an amazing experience. And I would ask you, exhort you, if you are in this community, show up, get involved. There is no task or no service that is too small or too big. And it has been exhilarating for me to be out in the community again. And I didn't realize how much I missed it. talking with my fellow citizens, listening to their concerns, talking about potential solutions, and just being part of what possibly could be something that made our community better. Made our community better for our neighbors, for our children, for the next generation. Get involved, no matter how you want to do it. It's easy to sit. I know I find it easy to sit on my lounge chair, watch TV, scream and yell at the pundits that are saying things I don't agree with. It's another thing to get up, get in the car, go down, volunteer, whatever, and that's what I would suggest. So I would love for what I believe my contribution to be your contribution, which is find a way that you can give to your community. That's where the strength of a community comes from. It doesn't come from dollars and cents. Those are important. It comes from people. It comes from people communing with people, working with people, serving people. And I have been exhilarated, as I said, exhilarated by this experience. And obviously, I hope it turns out well. But even if it doesn't, I will feel I have contributed something to the community by being part of the process. And I'd like to also commend my opponent, Mark, who has given decades to our community and served as a public official. It's not always easy, but it's always rewarding. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. This concludes the question portion of our debate. It's now time for closing statements. Each one of you will have 1 minute for your final closing statements. Because you started first, Mr. Smith, Mr. Freeman, you will go first. Again, you have 1 more minute. Please go ahead.
It says 2 minutes. No, it says 1 minute. Thank you, Rafael. This is a great experience, regardless what happens, because I have learned so much, and I have so much, you know, just the capacity to learn everything as an elected official. You think you know it all, and you don't. And I want people to know that I work for you. I always have. I've been, and I've said this many times before, as a firefighter, I've responded over 64,000 calls of service in our community. I know our neighborhoods, I know what we need, and I stand ready to serve you every capacity I have. And my door has always been open in my community and my grassroots organizations. And you know, I believe in Mesa, I believe in our quality of life, and I will end with this. I love Mesa, and it's always been in my heritage, because one of my great-grandfathers was the founder of Mesa in 1878. And so our family's lived here for 146 years.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Smith, you have 1 minute.
And thank you once again. As Mark said in his beginning, this is a resume. You are the search committee for the next mayor of Mesa. Mesa's a big city, over 500,000 people, over 140 square miles. And we need visionary leadership. The question I guess I would ask you is, as you look at us, Mark and I are a lot the same. We've lived in Mesa over 50 years, lived in the same part of town for most of it. I've said this before, we were both stunningly good looking. You know, I can't change that, but there are differences. And as you look at this resume, look at the resume. There's differences in background, there's differences in experience, there's differences in our successes, and there's difference in the visionary leadership. I have a vision for Mesa that your children will be able to walk the streets safely. They'll have opportunities to have a great education, economic opportunities, and you'll be able to live in place and grow old in Mesa and be proud of your community. I offer my service because I want to serve you. I want to serve you. I've gained the trust of firefighters, police officers, and others. I thank you for this opportunity to put myself forward, and I'd ask you to allow me to have another opportunity to serve you and vote for Scott Smith. Thank you very much.
Well, that wraps up today's debate on the Mesa mayoral race. I'd like to thank both candidates for participating today, Mark Freeman and Scott Smith. If you missed parts of the broadcast tonight, you can watch it again, and it's available on demand at the City of Mesa's YouTube channel, as well as azcentral.com. And of course, for more coverage of the Mesa's elections, please be sure to follow my colleague Maritza Dominguez's coverage. And as a reminder, early voting begins on Wednesday, October 9th, and Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. Thank you so much. We'll see you again.